What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into the Bears Den, an NFL podcast with the Chicago Bears First Focus. I'm your host, Alex, here today. Going to discuss the divisional rounds, do a little recap video, and had a great weekend of games, so we'll go ahead and get into it. Just before that, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. I appreciate all of your guys' support. We have hit a couple weeks now of some great growth, so I appreciate all the new viewers here. And I see there's a bunch of you that are not subscribed, but you're continuously watching the videos, so takes a second or two, hit that subscribe button, lets me know you guys are enjoying the videos. I appreciate all of the support. It really means the world to me. Without further ado, let's go ahead and we'll get into it. So I'll just give kind of 3 points for each of the games that I realized and thought about when watching. And we'll just start. We'll go in game order, right? So we'll start with the Texans and the Chiefs. First off, the elephant in the room, the officiating. It's not great. Now, I don't think that the officiating completely caused the outcome of the Chiefs Texans game. I think that the Chiefs would have won anyways. I think that their defense really kind of looked like the 85 Bears in that fourth quarter. I mean, CJ Stroud had no time to throw. There was no time for the rest to develop down the field. He just could not play quarterback at all behind that line. Chiefs really turned it up in the fourth quarter, and obviously with Mahomes and Kelsey, that's a playoff connection that is, arguably the best of all time, right? It's up there with Brady and Gronk and Montana and Rice, right? So I think that the Chiefs win regardless, but the NFL, I think, needs to get rid of the rules that protect the quarterbacks once they're runners. I don't think that Mahomes should be able to kind of like act like he's going out of bounds, do this little sneak around stuff behind his line, and then get tackled normally like anyone else, and then they throw a flag because they heard a loud noise of the two Texans' helmets colliding, right? I think that's pretty BS. I think that the first roughing the passer, where I think it was Will Anderson hit Mahomes up high, there's a debate, whether or not that's an actual penalty. The rule book says head and neck area, so I was fine with them leaving that one as a call. And then him flopping later, they didn't throw a flag, but it's like he's trying to kind of bend the rules of the game and abuse the game a little bit. So I would like to see the NFL kind of tighten up the rules a little bit, get rid of the rules protecting the quarterbacks once they decide to run. I mean, like if they're willingly choosing to run and scramble, they shouldn't then, be protected for it, right? So, treat them like anyone else. And I, I don't think that decided the outcome of the game, like I said, but it's frustrating to watch, and it's frustrating to watch it consistently with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So I hope the NFL makes some changes this offseason. Mahomes to Kelsey, I mentioned a little bit already. Just it's incredible how they just kind of can turn it on in the playoffs. Legendary stuff between the two of them, and part of me split, right? Part of me does not want to see them reach the Super Bowl again. Part of me does, just because it would be history if they were to win it all. First team ever to three-peat. Yeah, I don't know, right? I mean, it's just those two together in the playoffs are unstoppable. And then Houston, I just think we're going to see them probably in the playoffs for a while, right? I think that CJ Stroud is a great player. He turned it up in the playoffs. I just think that they were too injured on offense, right? Losing pretty much their entire receiving core is something that's really, really tough to overcome. And I think that, them being able to host the game and beat the Chargers was great. And just, running into Kansas City in round 2 when you're injured this much is really unfortunate. But, I think they'll be back, and they're going to probably be a pretty consistently strong team in the AFC for years to come. And the Chiefs obviously won that game 23-14. I don't remember if I mentioned the score or not. Commanders Lions. Commanders beat the Lions 45-31. If you didn't see my pick'ems video last week, I called this win, and it was my most confident pick of the week. This is a Commanders team that is just flooded with confidence. They are just blushing confidence all over the place. It is it's something, because Jaden Daniels looks like he's probably the best rookie of all time, which doesn't bother me as a Bears fan, right? Because I think that Caleb has a higher ceiling. I think Caleb will end up having a better career, but there's no taking away what Jaden has done this year. And to go on the road twice and to win 2 playoff games, and one of them being against the 1 seed, is just incredible stuff. And the moment just doesn't seem too big for him. and it's I think they have a really good shot this week against Philly. I'm still deciding who I want to pick for that game, but I think there's a good chance Washington makes the Super Bowl this year. It's just no matter what kind of adversity gets in the way, Jaden Daniels seems to overcome it. And that's the pro as a rookie of having, a head coach that has reached a Super Bowl in the past, you know, a good offensive coordinator that can design an offense for you, players, good players around you, and really just kind of a stable environment, right? Which is something that, uh, many of the other rookies this year didn't really get to experience, right? Obviously, Caleb didn't have a stable environment. Drake May his environment was kind of all over the place. He didn't get to play because the offensive line was bad, but then he's thrown in behind that offensive line. It's just not great. And then Jerod Mayo's fired after 1 year, and then JJ McCarthy obviously didn't play, and Penix, is sitting behind Cousins, and then when it's time to go try and make the playoffs, then he's thrown in. Like that's pretty unfair as well. So Jaden really had the best situation for a rookie this year, and we see the benefits that has. But this kid can play. He's very elusive, and he can make pretty much any throw needed, and they're looking good. They are looking good, and I think they have a good chance. And on the other side, Detroit, Jared Goff melting down in the playoffs, 4 turnovers. It's I see a lot of Lions fans online blaming Ben Johnson that he wasn't really locked in for this game. He was focused on the Bears' job and assembling his staff. Both can be true, right? That maybe he wasn't completely focused, but it's also not his fault, right? The Lions had over 500 yards of offense, and they scored 31 points, right? Um, Jared Goff gave Washington 7 points with the pick six. He was the one throwing the picks, fumbling the ball, and it's just, I mean, this was always a concern with Jared Goff, right? This has always been the concern ever since he was in the league. He can game manage, he can be, an MVP level quarterback, but any game, any possible game, he can melt down. He can do this. He can have one of these games. We saw it against Houston this year when he had 5 turnovers. Now, Detroit was lucky enough to win that game, but any given game, Jared Goff can do this, and it sucks. The Lions were the 1 seed, but I also think that this team was so injured on defense. I see a lot of fans online blaming Aaron Glenn and the defense. It's like these guys had 16 guys total on injured reserve. It was remarkable that they were able to clinch the 1 seed and get to the divisional round with the amount of injuries they had, right? But to me, it feels like the window is kind of now closing for Detroit. We'll see how good of a head coach Dan Campbell really is. We'll see who they bring in for the coordinator positions. But Ben Johnson, as of yesterday, is now the Bears head coach. And it's looking like Aaron Glenn is going to either be the head coach of the Jets or the Saints. So they're going to need two new coordinators. And we saw this. We saw this 2 years ago with Philly, right? Philly made the Super Bowl. They lost by 3 points to Kansas City, and then they lost uh, both their coordinators, and they were not the same team the next year, right? So the window is potentially closing. We'll see. They obviously have a great roster. They have a really solid head coach, but who knows, right? Losing both coordinators, you will be a different team next year, regardless of the players on your team, right? So we'll see if Detroit can bounce back. It's an unfortunate way for their best ever regular season to end, but Jaden Daniels got it done, right? Got it done. Rams 22, Eagles 28. Philly won at home, and man, this was a close one. My heart was racing watching this one. I really thought the Rams were going to maybe do it. Jake Elliott missing 2 extra points I thought was going to be the difference maker and was going to cost Philly. But the defense stepped up. Number 1 defense in the league for a reason this year. Vic Fangio, I miss that guy. I miss him in Bears gear. But the defense stood tall at the end. The big question mark now is Matthew Stafford going to retire, or is he going to be back, right? They asked him after the game. He said that he has some football left in him. He feels like he has, some games left in him, but he's not sure. He's going to take some time to figure it out. But an interesting offseason, a big offseason for the Rams now, because if he does come back, it feels like this Rams team is close. It feels like they're a couple players away from really being able to contend for a Super Bowl again. And I mean, that's just a testament to the ownership, the GM, and Sean McVay for really turning this team around so quickly, right? They had the bad contracts, an older roster who won the Super Bowl, right? And then they needed to kind of restart a little bit, and now they're back. And They are close. They are close. They need a few players. If Stafford retires, then it gets interesting, right? They're going to need a quarterback. But uh, man, I just had this thought randomly, but right now recording this, but Justin Fields in the Sean McVay offense, that would be fun to watch, right? I don't know how great that would be, but that would be a fun watch if Stafford were to retire. And then Philly, can this Philly team win it all? I don't know. I picked them to reach the Super Bowl. I think they can reach the Super Bowl, right? I don't know if they're good enough to win it all right now. It's just with Jalen Hurts, right? When you need him to throw the ball, can he do it? I don't know. Obviously, we know how good Saquon is. We know how good the defense is. But if they were to get in with Josh Allen on the other side of the Super Bowl or Mahomes, right? Like they're probably going to need to put up a good amount of points, and Jalen Hurts is going to have a big passing game. Can they do that? Can he do that? I don't know. We saw him have a great Super Bowl a couple years ago against Kansas City. So he has done it in the past. Can he do it again if it's needed? I don't know. That's kind of my question mark right now. And then just that Rams late drive. I mean, I picked the Rams to win that game. I would have loved if they had won that. I mean, Stafford made a great throw up the sideline to, I think it was Puka, and it was a great catch. And I really thought that they were going to win it all on that drive. But I mean, that was a really good game. That was a really close game, and two really good teams, right? Either team could have had that game. But Philly moves on to the NFC Championship. They're hosting Washington, and then finally Ravens 25, Bills 27. This was a fantastic game. We knew that this was going to be probably the best game of the weekend, and Lamar faltering again in the playoffs, right? I know a lot of people want to blame Mark Andrews for the loss, but I mean, let's be honest, right? Even if he catches the 2 point conversion, that doesn't win them the game. It's tied. Josh Allen has 2 timeouts. He's got a minute and a half left, and yeah, I think Buffalo, excuse me, only had 6 points that second half, but they're getting the ball at the 30 if it's a touchback, and Buffalo just needs 30 yards for a field goal attempt, right? Who knows, right? I don't know if Baltimore wins that game, even if Mark Andrews catches that. Maybe they do. Who knows? But maybe they don't. But to me, the big turning points in this game was not the Mark Andrews drop. It was the Lamar pick, the Lamar fumble, and then the Mark Andrews fumble, right? And so people are trying to defend Lamar. There's a lot of people going after Lamar too. I get it, but I saw this stat. I think it was Nick Wright of First Things First that posted this. Lamar in the playoffs has multiple turnovers in 50% of his games. In all the other regular season games of his career, he has multiple turnovers in 13% of his games. And so that's 8 playoff games now that Lamar has played. He's had multiple turnovers in 4 of them. And that's really telling, right? Because that's a pretty decent sample size. And when you are consistently making those same mistakes in the big moments, it's telling of who you are as a player. Now, of course, Lamar down the road can improve and overcome this, but as of right now, Lamar in the playoffs is not the same quarterback as Lamar in the regular season. And it's the same as Justin Herbert, right? We see quarterbacks come into the league and we know right away whether or not they can play in the playoffs, whether or not the moment isn't too big for them. We saw it with CJ Stroud last year. We saw it with Jaden Daniels this year, right? The playoffs aren't too big for these guys. With Justin Herbert, with Lamar, the playoffs seem to be a little bit too big for these guys currently. And it sucks. It's unfortunate to watch, but Josh Allen was on the other side, and Josh Allen is known for, in the regular season, turning the ball over. But in the playoffs, he plays his best ball, and it's kind of the inverse of Lamar, right? And Josh Allen protected the football, and Lamar didn't, and that was the difference maker, right? And obviously, the Mark Andrews fumble cost them big time, and it was a team effort. It was a team effort for why the Ravens lost that game. The penalties, the turnovers, the drops. It was a team effort. So I'm not solely blaming Lamar. Lamar obviously had the fantastic drive late to give them a chance to tie the game. But they were down in that position because of the turnovers previously in the game. So those things matter, right? Josh Allen should win MVP. I think that he will win MVP. I think there's a chance Lamar wins it, right? He had a great regular season. But there is always kind of that voter bias. We see it in the NBA, right? Jokic was going to win his, I think it was his 3rd straight MVP. He should have won it, but they gave it to, I think they gave it to Embiid instead. Um, there's a world where Lamar wins it. I think Josh Allen should be the MVP. He's had a great season. He was the only team in the regular season to take down the Chiefs. I'm not counting the Broncos because obviously the Chiefs weren't playing their starters. And this was the best season of his career, right? And I think that the Bills have a really good chance to win against Kansas City. I'm picking the Bills this weekend, and I just think that he should be the MVP. And then as far as the Bills' weakness go, I don't think they have a weakness, right? To me, Buffalo's the strongest team left in the playoffs. And I think they're going to win it all. I picked them to win it all at the start of the playoffs. This is a scary team. This is a team that doesn't have any weaknesses in my eyes. And I think they're going to go into Kansas City. They're going to get revenge for the 13-second game. And they're going to get it done. They've already beat Kansas City once this year. They can do it again. And so Buffalo's going on the road to Kansas City. It's going to be a great championship weekend round. I'm going to do my picks later this week. Just said that I'm picking Buffalo to win the Super Bowl, so that tells you who I'm picking this week for that. But stay tuned for who I'm picking in the NFC Championship game. And let me know what you guys thought of the divisional round down below. What were your thoughts on this week? I thought there were some great games. Really happy with the way they turned out. As a Bears fan, loved Detroit going down and stealing Ben Johnson as head coach. But I appreciate you guys watching. As always, I will see you in the next video. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. Helps me grow the channel. I appreciate you guys as always. Bear down. We'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace.